Hello, Barcelona fans. Welcome to Barca Talk News, and remember to subscribe and enjoy your news. Let's dive in. Barcelona, Arsenal, and the pursuit of Piero Hincapie. A transfer story. The summer of 2025 unfolded with its usual theater of speculation, negotiations, and tactical maneuvering in the transfer market. Among the many sagas that gripped European football, one narrative stood out for its blend of subtle intrigue and bold action. Barcelona's sporting director Deco quietly inquiring about Piero Hincapie, and Arsenal's decisive charge that ultimately placed them in pole position for the defender's signature. This episode, though just one of countless in football's restless market, illuminated the differences in strategy, timing, and ambition between two giants of the modern game. Hincapie's rising stock. Piero Hincapie's journey to prominence was meteoric yet methodical. Born in Esmeraldas, Ecuador, he honed his craft at Independiente del Valle before moving to Talleres in Argentina, where his blend of aggression, composure, and technical ability caught scouts' attention. By 2021, Bayer Leverkusen secured his services, and within a few seasons, he was more than just a promising youngster. He was a cornerstone of Xabi Alonso's defensive unit. Hincapie stood out not just for his defensive solidity, but for qualities increasingly vital in modern football. A natural left footer, he could anchor a back three, partner in a central pairing, or slot seamlessly into the full-back role when systems demanded fluidity. He was aggressive in duels, comfortable driving the ball forward, and brave in possession under pressure. For Leverkusen, he became indispensable in their title-winning campaign. For the market, he became invaluable. Thus, as the summer window of 2025 ticked towards its closing stages, his name began echoing around Europe's boardrooms. Clubs in England, Spain, and Italy all monitored him. But two paths converged most clearly: Barcelona's cautious curiosity and Arsenal's determined pursuit. Deco's inquiry for Barcelona. The context was complex. The Catalan club, still wrestling with financial restrictions and sporting inconsistencies, remained committed to rebuilding their defensive core. Deco, appointed to oversee recruitment strategy, understood the necessity of securing versatile defenders who could thrive in different tactical demands. Inquiries about Piero Hincapie surfaced as part of this process. The report, whispered first in Spanish media and later confirmed in broader European circles, suggested that Deco reached out to Leverkusen to test the waters. The conversation was not a formal bid, nor even the initiation of negotiations, but rather reconnaissance. What would it cost? Was the player open to a move? Were there competitors in the race? Deco's approach symbolized Barcelona's delicate position: interested, but constrained. It is important to recognize the significance of this move. A sporting director does not inquire idly. To ask is to acknowledge interest, to map the terrain, and to keep options alive. Yet in a market driven by speed and certainty, inquiry without immediate action often leaves room for rivals to swoop in. Arsenal's opportunity. In North London, the atmosphere was different. Arsenal, rejuvenated under Mikel Arteta and financially empowered by Champions League stability, had developed a transfer strategy built on clarity and swiftness. Arteta identified Hincapie as a solution to a lingering issue: depth and balance on the left side of defense. Though Jakub Kiwior offered promise, his inconsistency suggested the need for reinforcement. Oleksandr Zinchenko's recurring injuries amplified the urgency. The Arsenal hierarchy, led by sporting director Edu, moved with precision. They began drafting a deal reminiscent of the David Raya acquisition, a structured loan with an option or obligation to buy. This approach minimized immediate financial risk while ensuring long-term security if the player fits seamlessly into Arteta's plans. Within days of discussions, personal terms were reportedly agreed with Hincapie, and the framework of a transfer worth around $52–60 million, including sell-on clauses, emerged. Arsenal's advantage lay not only in financial structuring, but in vision. Hincapie was shown a project of growth, stability, and ambition. Arsenal were not simply buyers, they were builders. The promise of competing for Premier League titles and Champions League honors in a system tailored to his strengths proved irresistible. The divergence of paths. Here lay the crux of the story. Barcelona inquired. Arsenal acted. Deco's move reflected interest but hesitation, perhaps a symptom of the club's financial caution or a prioritization of other targets. By the time Barcelona's exploratory steps reached the surface of public knowledge, Arsenal had already advanced negotiations and positioned themselves as favorites. The contrast was telling. For Arsenal, decisiveness was their weapon. For Barcelona, delay became their downfall. Even had Deco desired to escalate talks, the financial constraints at Camp Nou made a $60 million investment improbable. Moreover, Arsenal's direct communication with Hincapie's camp placed them emotionally and strategically ahead. Leverkusen's stance Bayer Leverkusen, meanwhile, played their role with characteristic firmness. Fresh off domestic triumphs and eager to maintain competitiveness, they were in no rush to part with one of their defensive pillars. Reports indicated that Leverkusen's hierarchy pointed to Hincapie's release clause, valuing him at $60 million and refused to bend to cut-price offers. Yet, like all clubs operating in Europe's ecosystem, they understood that player will and financial strength from Premier League sides often tilted the scales. Arsenal's willingness to align with these demands, at least structurally, further distinguished them from Barcelona's mere inquiry. What Leverkusen required was clarity. What Arsenal offered was just that. Hincapie's perspective. From the player's side, the choice was equally instructive. Barcelona carried historical prestige, but their uncertain squad balance and financial strain clouded the picture. Arsenal, conversely, presented a vision of stability. Under Arteta, players were developed, trusted, and given tactical frameworks to excel. The Premier League spotlight, combined with Arsenal's attacking identity, promised Hincapie both development and exposure. His preference began to lean toward Arsenal. Personal terms were easier to settle, the role was clearer, and the timing aligned with his career trajectory. At 23, he was not merely seeking a big club, he was seeking the right club. The broader implications. This story, though specific to one player, speaks volumes about the evolving dynamics of European football. Barcelona, once the inevitable destination for any emerging star, now find themselves operating within caution, unable to flex their financial muscle with the same authority as in decades past. Their inquiries, while legitimate, often stall without rapid follow-through. Arsenal, on the other hand, embody the Premier League's current dominance in the market. The financial gulf, coupled with a renewed sporting identity, empowers them to act decisively where others hesitate. Edu and Arteta's clarity of vision, knowing exactly which player fits and why, creates momentum that Barcelona presently lack. A story of timing. At its heart, the Hincapie saga is a tale of timing. Deco's inquiry was not wrong. It was, in fact, sensible. Yet, in the fevered rush of football's transfer windows, timing is everything. A phone call too late, an inquiry without commitment, and opportunities evaporate. Arsenal's proactive strike showed how modern football rewards those who act, not just those who ask. Conclusion. The market's lesson. By the close of August 2025, Arsenal stood poised to welcome Piero Hincapie, while Barcelona were left reflecting on what might have been. The story underscores that in today's game, prestige alone cannot win transfer races. Execution, clarity, and speed define success. Deco's inquiry will likely fade into the long list of transfers Barcelona considered but never closed. Arsenal's action, however, may reshape their defensive line for years to come. For Hincapie, it marks the next step in a career of steady ascent, and for fans, it is another reminder that behind every signature lies a labyrinth of conversations, hesitations, and decisive moves. In the end, football's transfer market mirrors the game itself. Moments matter. Deco's inquiry was a first touch. Arsenal's decisive strike was the goal.